It's a pleasure to welcome you to The Meaning Mindset with Rabbi Ron. This is season 2, and to join a guest in person here in the studio. It's somebody I really like and admire, and his name is Stephen Silver. And Stephen is a fantastic artist, animator, teacher. I think you're going to get a lot of insight, a lot of wisdom, and entertainment value as well, because he's wonderfully entertaining and bright and engaging. This is my conversation with artist Stephen Silver. Stephen, one of the things that I admire about you is the way you've raised your kids. That's one thing. And maybe that's, at the end of the day, more important than what we do with our professional life. I think so anyway. I think about the hub of the wheel is our core, our values, our marriage, our kids, and then we go out into the world with our creativity and all the things we do. Tell me about growing up. You grew up in London briefly till you were about 9 or 10.
Yes.
What brought your dad and your family over here?
It was almost just like the right time. My mom's mom had just moved out here from Ireland. Her brother moved out from Ireland. And it was a time in England, funnily enough, where taxes were involved. And they're just like, they basically, if you can move out of the country without having to pay all the taxes and just leave. And my parents were just like, this might be the right way to go. But more importantly, it was America will bring a better life. They'll have a better, truly believe that America was the land of opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's what it was for all of us coming from, there were 7 of us, 5 kids, my parents, and they truly believed that this was going to be, we're going to have a better life. And I came into that with that mindset from the get-go.
And I've met your twin brother.
Yes.
I've probably met all your siblings at some point.
Maybe, yeah, at Caden's bar mitzvah.
So do you think everybody had the same mindset of the American dream as we used to think of it, and maybe hopefully still do?
Yeah, they do. And we really did. And my parents had just such a strong work ethic and just coming out here. My dad, even in England, we didn't even know it, but was really doing Uber before Uber exists. When we would go to bed at night to make extra money to support us, he was picking up drunks from the bars. I'd drop them up, and we never knew that. But these are the things, and their work ethic. And when my parents came here, my mom became a real estate agent because my aunt did, and my dad was just working at Robinson's May, just selling fur coats back then.
Really?
And we just saw the work ethic, and my mom would have us go around, and they did a thing in real estate called farming, where you go and drop off flyers on Sunday at people's doors and we would go do that and help, and just saw that, wow, this is what it takes, and just really believed, wow, we can honestly do anything. And all my siblings really have. My twin brother started his own DJ company. My 2 older brothers became engineers and working for massive companies, working for the United States government and doing things. So it was a real eye-opener. Yeah.
I remember, my wife, as you know, is English and came over here. And one of the things she would say, people would say, is it different? What feels different about it? Because London's a great city, England's a great place to live. She said, I just felt here like anything's possible. There's just this sense you have that anything's possible, whereas she said, I didn't feel that there. The other thing was there was a kind of discomfort in the UK. I don't know if it still exists, with success. With ambition, with drive. If you were trying to achieve something, people were like, stay, remember who you are, remember your class, remember how you were raised, essentially.
Yeah.
And she said, here, there's just no sense of being limited unless you put those limitations on yourself. Did you get that sense?
Well, I was very young. I was 10 years old, but absolutely. I would definitely say that that's a thing. And through my experience as a teacher and an educator and going back to England and all throughout Europe and teaching, this is what I hear from all the 18, 20, 24-year-olds. We don't have the opportunities, or you can't do this, or you'll be looked at as that. And a lot of people not being as ambitious. And I truly feel, you come here and it's a place where you can be ambitious and you can try things and you can fail at things, and you're not going to be as judged by things. And there's always, that feeling that the Americans, even coming from there, they're so loud and they're so, boisterous. They are. Yeah, really. When you see it, but there's an energy behind it where I feel like you can let go when you come here and not feel ashamed, where I can absolutely see that.
Yeah, I wonder if people who are listening and watching want to comment on whether they think that's their reality now, because maybe it's changed. I mean, I lived in the UK for 9 years, and I lived all over Europe and traveled all over. And I know in those days, it did feel like America, that idea of land of opportunity that people scoff at now, by the way, you know who's scoffing? Americans born here.
Right.
But reality is, I still think immigrants are feeling like, and immigrants, you know, think about all the people coming from all over the world who have come here to do better than they did, to have a better reality for their kids. So your dad took a leap, really, which is what my parents did as well, which is cross the world and plant yourselves again and start again. How do you translate that? How do you think we do as parents? We're the immigrant generation. How do we teach that to the next generation, to our kids? And how do you teach it to the students that you teach all over the world?
I think more so even today is, I just think with the rise of the internet and the rise of all this accessibility, I just think it's you have to move into this new world. I like teach really entrepreneurship now. I try to just address that as much as possible, that it's not what our parents' life was. You can't just work at a company anymore and be there for 40 years and be content with that. It's really, you have to have multiple campfires now. It's not just that one place, and once that flame burns out, you're going to move to that next one and take care of that, but just be open to that and aware. And again, the accessibility, right, that we have, where before you go to the bookstore and you'll try to find something, but now any question you have, you could just how do pigeons know how to go from one place to the next, you know, with that, and, you know, you can find anything out just so quickly now. And I think just being open to that and not burying your head in the sand about anything. And I think it's just, what do you want? I think it's all the discipline, right? I think you just have to know what you desire. Yeah. What do I want? What do I want? And so for me, that's what I try to teach my kids. And I could never stop my kids from trying to do what they do, especially my son who went into the Marine Corps. I can't stop you. This is who you are. This is what you want. And you got to allow for that.
Yeah. You're, I think, like me, a generative person. I'm an idea generator. And maybe when I was a kid, I could never see a blank envelope or paper without drawing on it. I was always drawing. And I was drawing in class, and I was drawing at school, at home. That was I don't know, it was just a way of getting something out of my system. And I was thinking recently that stopped. Why don't I doodle when I'm on a phone call anymore? Why don't I? And there was also another thing I noticed that, it's not that I stopped being creative, because I think I've channeled that creativity into other areas, but that's certainly an avenue that's shut down. Yeah. I'd love to maybe bring it back. What do you do as a generator that you always have been? How do you channel? What do we do with our creativity? What do you tell people who have the potential to be creative? How do they channel it into something that is, in this case, sometimes a career or meaningful, even if it isn't going to earn them a dime?
I think it's stop worrying about the result of things, how that's going to turn out. I think even as kids, you're told that you might draw a dog and it has 12 legs. Hey, dogs don't have 12 legs. You can't draw that. Dogs only have 4 legs. Or there's all these restrictions. And sometimes that puts that limitation on that child to continue drawing. They feel like, I can't do this. And I think it's the same when you're just being creative and just trying to do something, not worrying about the outcome of it. I don't worry about that. I've stopped worrying about that, I should say, because I always used to. When I was growing up, and you start off as an amateur, and then you hopefully become a professional, and then you transition, and most of the time, hopefully a teacher. But I realize that a lot of the time, for me, it's don't put that expectation on what this actually looks like. Don't try to limit the comparison. I think that's what stops a lot of people being creative, is the fact that, look at that person, look how much better they are. I can never be as good as them, so I'm not even going to try, and don't even bother. And then the social media made it 10 times worse, because now it became, I'm not even getting any likes, no one's looking at this, therefore, oh my God, it can't be that good. And all of a sudden this keeps self-defeating oneself in that creative space. And I think you just got to allow yourself to just fail. You really, and that's what drawing is. It's failures over and over again. I'm sure, like, I'm not a writer or a musician, but I'm sure it's the exact same process where you're just going, nah, that doesn't sound right. Let me try that again. And just, you go. And I think that's part of this process.
Yeah. I had a friend in London who was a fine art expert. They have the great galleries in London, and they would do the great master paintings. And one of the things he told me, we were talking about, first of all, one thing, authenticity. And he'd say, I went to Paris this morning, we'd be having dinner. I said, what were you doing? He said, well, I had to go and authenticate a painting, and whether it was a Rembrandt or not, because that was his area of expertise. And I said, how do you do that? You're not scraping paint. He said, no. He said, actually, I feel sick in my stomach if I stand in front of a painting that isn't real. Then I check that feeling with, is that the painter's brush strokes? Is that the composition of his oil, etc.? So that was amazing to me in itself, that gut reaction, where he trusted his gut because he'd fine-tuned it.
I love that.
But back to what you were saying, he said every painting, essentially the great ones, are thick with paint. They're thick with errors. Every painting is layered. The greatest painting that we see had failure after failure after failure after failure. And underneath, and if you scrape layer by layer, if you could, you'd see something that the painter wasn't happy with, and then he added and changed and added and changed until finally, and you know this, at some point you just have to say enough.
Yes.
Yeah. And even if the dog, it's funny that you in animation, the dog could have 12 legs.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's true. Yeah.
We live in a world where a dog has to have 4 legs.
Right.
It's funny that when babies draw, kids draw, there are no limitations.
Yes.
You know, they might draw a dog that has 3 legs, 9 legs, but as adults, we feel like we have to conform. So how do you teach that? How do you teach that idea to emerging artists, or even artists who are on their path to say, take the limitations off yourself?
And so much of it is just the experimentation, and it really is just stop the comparison. I think simple things like turn off the notifications on your phone, so you're not constantly distracted all the time, or stop erasing. There was a great book that I read by this great animator. His name was Seamus Culhane, and he talked about when he was animating, he was very slow, but when he would animate, what he realized, every time he was drawing, he kept turning over his pencil and erasing. And by doing that, he was actually putting on the brakes and kept stopping the flow within his mind, as opposed to just keep going through the process. You can always go back and adjust and figure things out afterwards. And I think that's what I just tried, because I learned so much from that, and I would always do the same thing. And now when people are on their digital devices, it's always undo. They'll draw, undo, undo, and they're not allowing themselves to flow. They keep going to the stop, putting on those brakes all the time. And I think if you can stop doing that and allow yourself just to mess up, and even when you're drawing on paper, don't draw on the best sketchbooks. Don't draw on the best paper, the most expensive paper, because that puts a limitation. So try to look at all the limitations. What's stopping? Well, I don't want to ruin my sketchbook, because what if someone opens up my sketchbook and they see this horrible drawing? Well, then they're going to think, no, just grab copy paper and just draw, just go and let yourself mess up, and then go back and do the editing. And I imagine it's just like writing. You got to go through that rough draft first, and then you got to go back and refine and pull out. There's so many similarities, but it is about just letting go, and that can be a hard thing. It's not just a Disney song, you know, but it's just, you got to let go and relax.
You talk about writing as opposed to digital writing.
Yeah.
And there's a real difference, I think, because if I used to write with a pencil, let's say I wrote a book or an essay with a pencil or pen, I would have that word there that I wanted to cross out. I could still find it, right? Because it's on a piece of paper, and I put a big line through it.
Yeah.
And then I continued. So all of my errors are in there, meaning that's part of the story, as you say.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something useful in that I want to bring back. But in the digital age, when I write, I backspace and erase that word or that sentence or that chapter or whatever it is. And maybe that's what you're saying happens in artwork as well. When people are on digital pads, they're losing things that might be valuable.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, there's times where I'm drawing, and I always tell my students that my 3 words I always say is just do not settle. Do not settle. Don't get in the habit of just doing that one and done drawing and be done with it. You have to allow yourself to see that process and go back to it. So I might be designing a character and I've done maybe 100 variations of that. And that first one might be the best one. But along the way, there might have been, oh, I love the way I drew that nose on number 20. And I love the way that I drew the hands or those feet on number 50. And then you start Frankensteining, you just start cutting it all together and putting it all together until you finally find that piece. But if you just settle way too quickly, which I oftentimes call like the high school mentality, because that's what you do in high school. You do your drawing and you render the heck out of it. And you just every little detail. It's just like, stop. Draw 30 more drawings and not just doing that one, because you're going to get better. And that's what it's all about. It's all about trying to improve your skill set. How do you get that? Repetition over and over again.
Like
but if I'm just,
anything.
Right, like anything.
Sports,
right?
musical instruments.
It's everything. Yeah.
You reminded me earlier, we were talking about we're always looking for the end result.
Yeah.
And when I was in the UK, I had an instructor once in London who was frustrated with me because I was trying to work out, what's this for? What's this for? What's the outcome? What's it for? He said to me, you Americans are all like your end gainers. And I said, end gamers or end gainers? No idea. But all I remember was, I said, what does that mean? He said, you're not interested in the process. He said, I want you to just let yourself be in this moment, in the process, without trying to work out, where are we going with it? What's the result going to be? And I learned a lot from it. Not that I don't still struggle with that, but I got that point. And maybe there is a cultural piece to it too. That might come out of a kind of success orientation that is American. It's certainly, we're not known for the Zen qualities of other cultures, and we're rushing ahead. I love the idea. I don't know, when you were speaking, I got an image of the old bicycles where you actually had to change direction of your feet, right? You're going ahead. What was this called, this part on the bike? The pedals. Right. And then to brake, you had to actually go in the opposite direction, which in art, I could see what you're saying. Just let that flow continue.
Yes, absolutely. Again, you can always go back to it and revise it, right? That's the important thing to know. I can always go back to it. I can always address it again. Allow yourself time, though. Try not to do things that are going to be the last minute. Try not to procrastinate even in the creativity process. You have to allow yourself just to, if that idea comes, just draw. I have pads of paper by my TV. I have them near my desk at night. Anything. It could be any time. Creativity or ideas can pop in at any moment. And just allow yourself to do it, make it happen.
When you started and you came over here and you found your first outlets, which were caricature drawing, first of all, there's nothing digital about it. Right. I don't know that we knew what the word was.
No.
Did we use that word?
Yeah, no.
I don't understand. At some point, we got into this new language. But I know in your childhood and mine, that wasn't part of the language. So when you went to the first studios, and I think Warner was the first
Warner
one.
Brothers,
So you brought actually this wooden crate that you'd created for your artwork portfolio. Obviously, everything was physical. You put your drawings out.
Yeah.
How did you move from a single drawing to an animation? What does that process look like? Because for those of us who don't know, I don't know how, except those animated books where you flow from photo to photo.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So in the animation process, so my role is a character designer. So my role is to, once I get a script, my job is to now, I got a blank sheet of paper and I have to bring that character to life. What does that character even look like? It's just, well, it was just a blank piece of paper and I'm not drawing a polar bear in a snowstorm. I'm trying to like draw something something and I'll start to come up with all these ideas. Once we're done with that and we create the storyboards and what all they call all the pre-production, that now gets sent to the animators. And now the animators know what, now they got to just move from, again, just one action. I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee. Well, I'm just starting. My hand's over here, and now it needs to get down there and bring that up to my mouth.
Yeah.
In television animation, that requires about 12 drawings for every 1 second of animation.
Wow.
But in feature animation, that's 24 drawings for every 1 second. So every 1 second of animation you see, especially in a feature film, that's 24 little drawings that, again, are interpreted. But it's not just moving one part, which makes it even more complicated because there's all these things, again, very technical. I won't get into it, but yeah.
So that when I reach for my cup, this shoulder's moving
right,
as well.
That's moving. Again,
and I have a facial expression
That might be a facial expression. You might be moving, doing that, and it's windy. And all of a sudden now you got to think about the wind moving. And there's so many things involved that it's complicated and requires a great sense of draftsmanship. And more importantly, requires a great sense of observation. And that's what really drawing is all about. It all just comes down to that. And I think, again, with many things in life, it's about observation. When you observe something, you can take it in. Oh, I see how that old man moves. I see how that person, look how that old man sits. Look how long it took them to sit down as opposed to that young 20-year-old. So you got to be an observer of that. And if you're not going to be a great animator or just a designer. And this is why so much of the skill set is just observational drawing in your sketchbook. And that's the process that I love. I love capturing that and looking at people, looking at clothing, looking at hairstyles, and you're documenting it and you're kind of eventually build up this muscle memory to where now I could just put it down. But yeah, the animation process itself is very tedious. And it's the same way in the computer. People think computer animation, oh, you're just hitting a button.
Right.
It's the same thing. It's just now you're just moving those parts around, individual parts in the computer, but you still have to have a knowledge of movement and observation, and it will still require that many frames. Yeah.
So I'm looking at you, and because there's a black sofa and a wall behind you, I can see how much in 5 seconds you move. You're very animated, pardon the pun, but your shoulders aren't bouncing around. You're essentially still. People would say he was still. But if I wanted to animate 3 seconds of it, I would have seen the arms moving and the hands moving and the face moving and the expression moving and the shirt moving and the hat moving and all these different things. So one animator has to focus on maybe 11 points of movement or 20 points of movement to get the cup of coffee or to say something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then if we were to move around your body, there's even more movement.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I learned from you is maybe it was in your Silver Arts Academy. Am I saying it correctly?
Silver Drawing Academy.
Excuse me, Silver Drawing Academy, which people can find online, is that you present everything in 3/4 mode. Is that right?
Yes.
Am I calling it correctly?
Yeah.
So 3/4 mode, I understand, and I could see that. And what you were showing, it shows us not this mode and not a side mode, but 3/4. I'm going to see some expression, another body part.
Right.
It's going to give me a better sense of the shape of the figure.
Exactly.
So how do we then move that? This is what I don't understand. When I go and see a movie, an animated movie, which I just saw, there's a camera point of view as well. So there is the animation of the figure, everything about it, but where does the camera figure into this? How does that work?
Well, it's really you. You're everything. You're the cameraman too. As
Is
you're
there a
doing
camera
that.
involved, by the way?
Well, not when there is when you're just shooting. There used to be. There was where Disney, what everyone's familiar with, Snow White and all these other. They had the multi-plane camera where they would create the background. That was someone else's job. Create the background. Then you got the individual cells. There was someone else who would color it. There was someone else who would ink it. So there was many things, and then you just shoot that and then take the next animated cell and you put it on there, move it, and all of a sudden take a shot, and it keep moving just one after another. But in that camera move, when you see people that camera moving around, the animator has to be conscious of that. And that's where that expertise, because of all of a sudden they'll call like what's called a worm's eye view, where you might have the camera on the ground as from a worm's perspective. And all of a sudden you're looking up at the character, but now that camera is moving up. So you are drawing, you're the camera, your eyes, how that would come to all of a sudden that bird's eye view where now the camera's above you, and you have to be conscious of that. If that's the story you're trying to tell, that the camera's coming in and there's this action happening, you got to be aware of that and be able to draw it. So it's not just tape, because you got to think about the perspective. There's a lot of things involved in it. Yeah.
Amazing. We just see and take for granted something flying through the air.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And the camera moving around with it.
Right.
But you're saying the artist is the camera.
Yeah, the artist is the camera.
And if the artist misses one beat, we're going to feel it, presumably.
You'll feel it, yeah. You'll see it, because, and what you're doing too, like you just mentioned the front 3/4 view, you're building that front 3/4 view to show some other information. But then what you're doing is, again, this is all out of your imagination. If I'm creating a character, let's just say I'm creating Scooby-Doo from scratch. I might, draw Scooby-Doo, and now I need to draw him from a side view. What does this dog that's just in my imagination look like at a side view? What does he look like in a back 3/4 view? What does he look like from going behind? So you're creating all these views of what you think that person looks like in all these different angles, and then the animator can take that.
If we have a moment, let's say, in a film that lasts 3 seconds, 2 seconds, but there's so much motion of the figure and the camera, and you're responsible for both, how long could it take to arrive at that in its final form? From you're the director or the storyboard, and you're saying, okay, I need to manage that moment.
Yeah, you're drawing the storyboard. Again, it can be very complicated. It can really be, you could spend days just trying to figure out that shot and trying to make it work. And then what you might be doing, depending on your role, you'll do the rough animation, and then someone else will have to clean that up and tighten it up. And then now it's colored, and now they're compositing it, putting it into the computer. That can take a while. Anytime we were working on production, which they'll call the pre-production and television animation, we might take about 6 months to create all the assets, the storyboard, the turnarounds, everything that's needed, send it overseas. A lot of time it would go overseas just because of the cost effectiveness of it. And then it comes back maybe 6 months later. It could be a whole year just producing.
You've given them the imagery.
Yeah.
And they've then animated it overseas?
They'll animate it overseas, then it comes back. So now we're going to do post. That was pre-production, animated, comes back to the studio, and now we do what's called post-production. And now we're putting in the music, the voices, everything else, and tying it all together. And again, that could take 8 months to a year just to generate that one episode.
So it seems that animation was one of the globalized features of media.
Yeah.
I mean, we see that now with Hollywood.
Sure.
How much everything is being shot all over the world, much to the loss of LA, by the way.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about Hollywood a lot with all that's happened since COVID, the strike and the struggles. And I'm thinking that Hollywood is maybe already the name of an industry more than a place. Right. The sign stands less for a location than it does for what's now a globalized industry. What's your feeling about that?
It's definitely hurt this industry, our industry. The pandemic really destroyed a lot of things, unfortunately. I mean, there was a lot of silver lining to it, but there was a lot of industry was created due to it, but it hurt our industry because the industry realized we don't need butts in the chair anymore at Disney or Nickelodeon or wherever. We don't need all the artists sitting at their desks here. You know what? They can do it from home. And you know what? It's working out great. And you know what? We can send it overseas and give it to other artists, and we don't have to pay the same amount of rates and everything else. So it really, everything changed from them. Then you had the writer's strike, which affected a lot of things that happened. And then AI, sneaking into it. Yeah, it's a lot of things happen. So it's not what it was. And this is where I believe now it's so much of an indie world. I think for all of us, anyone on the creative side, whether you're doing your own podcast, whether you want to create your own comic, your own animation, your own YouTube channel, and where are all the eyeballs, right? It's people aren't watching TV anymore. They're looking at YouTube. They're looking at TikTok. That's changed everything tremendously. So it's the animation industry in itself in Hollywood is absolutely suffering.
Yeah. How big was an animation room when you were at Nick? I think I visited you there and saw the lab. And I remember it was kind of booth to booth to booth. Lots of people working on a production. How many drawers did you have?
Yeah, you got multiple productions. So at Disney, at Nickelodeon, there could be maybe about 6 or 7 different animated shows going on. They're on different floors, but on a production, you may have maybe anywhere from maybe 50 to 60 people on a team, on a crew. And they all have their different roles. But on the actual artists themselves, pre-production, maybe about 18 to 20 or so. Again, not a lot because you're not actually doing the animation, right? So you're just doing the storyboard. So we just need about 5 storyboard artists. We just need about 2 character designers. We need about 2 background layout designers. We need a prop designer. Hey, we need someone to draw a coffee mug.
Right.
That's their job.
12-legged dog.
Yeah, the 12-legged dog.
And then what's the director's role in this?
Is really just to unite everyone, just make sure that everything's on the same track. Here's the script. It all starts with the script. It all starts with the story, right? What's the story?
Yeah.
You start with the story and you start to build from there. And that director's job is to look over the storyboards, approve the designs, and then eventually say, okay, everything's looking good. And then it's up to the other people, the production coordinators, everyone else involved, just to put all the assets together, package it all up, either email it or, mail
it. Used to be when you drove down the 101, you'd see Hanna-Barbera Studios. I always remember that sign. From my childhood, that was Saturday morning cartoons. Yeah. What happened to them? They were iconic.
Yeah, they just went away. They weren't able to do everything that they used to do. The studio just got smaller. They moved into Warner Brothers building on the 405, the Co-America building. That's where I started, on the 5th floor at Warner Brothers. But Hanna-Barbera was like on the 10th floor. And eventually it just dissolved and became part of, I believe, just the Warner Brothers brand through there.
Generative AI comes into the world. We're in that era now.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a lot of thought on it, and I've heard you speaking about it. One of the things that I admired was that you said to all your artists out there, listen, this is reality. Yeah. We can buck against it and all talk about how terrible it is, or we can face the reality, embrace the reality. What does that mean for your industry?
It's changed. What it means is where you might have had 20 artists on a production actually physically doing that, well, maybe you just need about 7 now.
Wow.
And that's where things will start to evolve. It's not there yet. Honestly, in the studios, there are people trying to stop it from coming in, but it's still there. And I think it's up to the responsibility of the producers and the directors to be, if they want to stand their ground on it, they're the ones who are going to need to say, hey, we're not going to incorporate AI into this, but it's a tool. And like you mentioned, I mentioned to all my students, everyone, stop burying your head in the sand about this. This is here to stay. It's going to be interesting to watch the Disney and who is it, Universal, are suing this company Midjourney, which is the largest AI, generative AI maker out there. So it's going to be interesting. But that company also made $300 million last year, Midjourney. So it's a real beast to contend with, and it'll be interesting to watch what happens. But that's what's going to happen, and it's going to be a tool that I think artists and people are just going to have to embrace and use it try to find that ethical way, to use it. I don't know what that is yet. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how they're going to be able to compensate all the artists that they are scraping things from. There's millions and millions of little dots, put together.
So presumably they could take a hand gesture and pull it into their library of hand gestures.
Sure. Yeah.
And not just a face that you'd say, that's mine.
Right.
But they could take an eyebrow that you wouldn't even recognize.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happens, what do you think happens to all the animators in Hong Kong or wherever they're all found
Yeah.
that have been working on these shows. And we see at the end of a big movie, animated movie, the credits just go on for days. You need like 3 songs now for
Right.
credits.
Yeah.
Is that disappearing? What happens in those societies when all those people are replaced by AI? Or am I overstating it?
I think you're always going to need, I just feel like you're always going to need the human touch. You're always going to need that bit of that human innovation. You're always going to, I feel like that's just not going to vanish completely. I can't believe, I just don't believe that that's going to vanish. It's just going to be, it's not going to be 3 songs worth of credits anymore. It will be, companies are going to start to look at AI and say, you know what, that ocean scene that's going to take this much money to make and this much time, we can do that in AI in 5 minutes or a day and be done with it. And I think we're going to incorporate that into the pipeline. And I think that's what it's going to do. So there will be those jobs which will, they will vanish. And there's going to be those certain, I think there's going to be that innovation where there's going to be a lot more independent studios which are going to go, hey, we don't have $50 million to make this movie, but we got $8 million that we can get together to make this movie. And with AI, we can make it a reality, and we can get that team and make this independent production, and we can put it on YouTube, and we can start charging maybe a subscription fee. I think what you're going to do is it's going to be like the Renaissance in a way. There's going to be a boom. I think there really will be in this space.
That's interesting because you sound very positive about something that's also threatening.
Sure. Yeah.
And I know the reality. These are people and their mortgages.
Yes.
And we see that all over.
Yeah.
Yuval Noah Harari, have you heard him speak? He's one of the great thinkers in the world today. Israeli Hebrew University historian who wrote a great book called Sapiens.
Okay.
Incredible book. Then he wrote Homo Deus, which is about the moment when human beings become gods, because we can now create, and we can not only create, we can create something. I, in Los Angeles, can create something that will be living and thinking in Dusseldorf, right? Across the world, independent of me. And it's not going to rely on my thinking at all anymore. Kind of an amazing notion. And then he gives 21 or 27, maybe somebody can say in comments, lessons for the 21st century. And he's looking at biomedical engineering and AI and saying, look, there's a lot that is fantastic that we have to embrace and will benefit from. By the way, in medicine, it's incredible.
Sure.
But he also says this is going to change the world in ways that the world hasn't been changed in history. He also says that the danger in the future is that it's not that the majority of society will be unemployed, which we know how dangerous that is in societies. He says the future will be most of us will be unemployable. And I'm thinking about industries that rely on somebody's touch where what do you do at some point? You go, well, what am I going to do? What else am I going to do? Well, I want to stay in the arts. I want to stay in the written art, the fine arts. People are going to have to find ways, as you say, to be adapted and adaptive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to. And I think that's where having multiple campfires and setting yourself up for that. And I think it's experience too. Like I think something that just humans as social animals, we want to experience things. And that's why I see a boom in conventions of just nostalgia. All these things are popping up. People want to get out of the house. People don't want to just stare at the screen all day. They want to touch. They want to feel. And I read an article recently how there was a rise in portraiture, like live portraiture, oil paints, acrylics, because people are like, I don't want the AI thing. I want a real portrait. I'm fascinated by that. Or just to watch an artist paint a mural or a seascape or a caricature, a live caricature is all of a sudden, whoa, wow, you're doing this with your hand, without AI.
So we still are wowed by human talent.
I believe so. I think that's instinctual. I think we always will need that, I feel. Otherwise, it will be like, what was that movie, that Pixar movie, Wall-E, where everyone's just sitting and just doing nothing. And I mean, we could become very complacent.
Yeah, but so you as an educator, because you're so much more than an artist, how do you instill that in people who are struggling with what the future looks like? I'm sure you face that.
Oh, all the time.
In conventions, when you're speaking all over the world or online, you get people who are, saying, what does the future look like? Why am I bothering? What's your answer to that?
Yeah, all the time. I think I've always had a philosophy. I've never believed in failure. And I try to share my perspective and my story and my journey as to where failure just never stopped me. And I allowed myself just to mess up and be okay with that. And I think that's the message that I just try to impart upon them is, guys, it's okay. Just again, know what it is that excites you and try to follow that. Try to drown out the noise. Stop worrying about what everyone else is doing, what everyone else's success looks like. It doesn't matter. It's what do you want to do and try to be as good as you can. Still try to get into the animation industry if that's something that you desire. And honestly, I don't even train people now. My training philosophy was just trying to train artists to do what I do in the animation industry as a character designer. But the jobs are a lot smaller now, so I'm not training them that. I'm just training them to just open your eyes. What are you passionate about? What do you love? What excites you? When you walk down the street, do you look at architecture and that excites you? Are you excited by animals? Are you excited by painting flowers? I don't know. Or people. Just do what you're passionate about. And then eventually what'll happen, keep putting yourself out there. And also you got to just build up your confidence in talking to people. That's a huge thing because artists historically are just very shy people, very reserved.
Sure.
You always,
quiet observers.
You've always heard that there's those sort of things that have been put on artists. Artists are a dime a dozen. There's people's parents have tried to stop their kids from being artists. You'll never make a living at that. How are you going to do? So there's all these limitations that are put on them. And I think if you just do what you love.
Yeah.
And then eventually something might happen. Don't go into this wanting to be famous. Oh, I'm going to be a famous artist and I'm going to sell $1 million paintings. And this is all. Again, it's beautiful to have that idea, but just create, just get yourself to a level, ability that people are going to notice you and will hire you and will see you and go, hey, you know what? You're pretty good. Can you do my logo for me? I'm looking for something I need, any sort of need. And I think that's what I try to impart in them is just keep drawing because you love it. You're going to get ghosted all the time. You're going to get rejected all the time. When I started doing caricatures the very first time, I remember I was drawing caricatures and the people that I drew, hey, how long you been doing this? So, oh, it's my first day. And they looked at each other and they got up and left, And my boss came over and goes, what happened? I said, they got up and left. I told him it's my first day. And he said, from now on, just tell them you've been doing it for 2 years. So that became my line. And it all of a sudden built confidence in them. But I had people rip up their drawings in front of my face. I had people, and it builds a very thick skin. So allow yourself to build a thick skin.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to weather a lot of this storm.
Yeah. You just said something that is just so visceral, to hear the sound and see somebody rejecting what you just...
Right.
Amazing. Yeah, we have versions of that in our lives, but that's pretty real.
Yeah.
So when what's the kind of teaching that you're doing right now? What are you focused on?
Really just drawing observation, learn how to see, learn how to just build up your ability to draw the human figure, learn how your ability to draw expression and movement and emotion, because that'll carry through in your comic books, in your prints you want to make, in your storytelling, in your puzzles you want to build, your t-shirt designs, whatever it is. I'm just teaching them just to really build that strength in their drawing ability, and then just know what it is, what excites you. Really, I'm trying to get into that from them, pull that out. And a lot of artists, they'll say, and I think a lot of professions, but I'll say, so what do you want to do? Oh, I want to be an artist. You can't just say, I want to be an artist, like saying, I want to be a doctor. Well, what kind of doctor? You want to be a foot doctor? You want to be a brain surgeon? It's the same thing with art. I think the more you define it and get it down and say, I really want to do this. And I also tell people too, nothing you do is a life sentence, right? Unless you do something so horrible,
Right.
you're going to get that, be thrown in prison. But just what is it right now that's inspiring you that you want to do? You may change it in 2 years.
Nothing's
and that's
permanent.
okay, you know?
That's such a gift, by the way.
Yeah.
To tell somebody the decision that you're deliberating on isn't permanent.
Right.
You can try it.
Right. Try it.
Try this, try that in your life.
Yeah.
It's a crooked road.
Yeah.
You mentioned you're thinking, or we're talking about the idea that certain art forms are changing. We know that. But it also reminds me that I was talking to somebody about a new genre in literature, which is romantasy, romantic fantasy. And if you go into any bookstore, go online, look up romantasy, you'll see it's a crowded field of incredible writers, presumably. It's not my field. I don't read it. But one of the things that made me think about is they're moving more into media than just books. So, of course, it's merchandising and all that. That requires artists. They're also moving into the idea, from what I understand, of animated novels as well. So now you're starting to see a new field emerging when we assume that certain things are fixed and locked.
Right.
No, there might be a new avenue
Yeah.
for somebody to say, here's what I can do and how I can contribute to a burgeoning art field.
Yeah.
And if you look at the New York Times bestsellers list under fiction, so many titles are in that category. So this is something new. What's happening in the studio world these days? Are they still producing thick and fast in terms of the quantity of media they're putting out?
Not really. They're really just trying to find, they thought the streaming would be the answer, but streaming didn't work really to their benefit, what they thought. And I think, honestly, we're in that thick of it right now. I think they're really trying to determine what is the next move as they're trying to produce this. Again, the eyeballs are on YouTube and TikTok right now.
Yeah.
What do we do? But we still see some of these feature movies that come out and they do magnificent. You know, some of them, you know, will fail, of course, but they're coming out and they're generating just really huge numbers. So there's that, and they go, okay, we got something
There's still
here.
an appetite for it.
There's still an appetite for it, absolutely.
We saw How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay.
That was, I'm trying to remember, DreamWorks, right?
DreamWorks, yeah.
Okay. And that was great. I thought it was just a beautiful story, well told when it was animated. Then, by comparison, we just saw the new one that's live action and animated, which we really enjoyed as well. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't the same because I'd just seen the other one. But how does it work, by the way? I just want to go into the technique for a moment. Clearly, now you do have a camera.
Yes.
So now you have a mixed media.
Sure.
You have a real actor, live action, and mixed with dragons and world environments that aren't real. How do you do that? How do you manage that?
Yeah, the computer animation, it still all starts with, of course, the script. Yeah. Then you go to the storyboards, and that's still drawn out. So you're still seeing it in that almost pencil form.
So it is hand-drawn.
It's still hand-drawn. Someone's still drawing that out. It's the same thing with The Lion King when they just did that. Someone is drawing out all those board sequences, and now you're going to shoot the live action. You're going to have the green screen, and now you're going to get the computer animators to now bring that imaginary character into life. And then this is where there's a lot of people involved, because not only are you building the character, but you got to call what they're talking about, rigging the character for animation. So you're the animator, there's all these points where now they have to move every little point in that character. If their claw is opening, that's a lot of work. And then there's the lighting, and then there's the texture.
And is the lighting computer generated?
The lighting's computer generated, following what the live action process has done. But they can also throw the lighting into the live action aspect just to make it a little bit more dramatic.
So they're shooting two movies essentially.
You really are, Amazing. At that point. Yeah.
And that's one where you have a 6-song credits.
There you go. Yep.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And it really is a global industry.
It is.
It's incredible when I see all of the names, 150 names that are all Eastern European names. I go, okay, all of that was Czech Republic, Lithuania, wherever it was. Yeah. And then you see another nationality, essentially. Yeah. Okay, they shot. That was all people working, and all of that ends up in one film.
One big
in
film.
some ways, that's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
That idea of globalization.
Yeah, absolutely.
That there's global collaboration.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it opened up the world to a lot of artists and people, creators who didn't have an opportunity. It was always about moving to Burbank. Do I have to be in Burbank if I want to make it in this industry? And now the answer is no.
You can be in your room.
You can be in your room. Absolutely. Yeah.
What are you teaching in your art academy now, Silver Art Academy?
So I'm teaching character design principles, just building characters. I'm teaching caricature. I'm teaching gesture, how to move the body. I'm teaching the business of art as well. So I have a lot of different categories when someone joins the academy. I got beginning techniques for those who are just starting out and just want to learn, how do you draw an eyeball? How do you draw an ear? And I go through a lot of those phases, and it's self-paced. So it's a subscription based where anyone from all over the world can join in and just start watching the videos. They're all under 5 minutes each. Yeah.
And you still travel as much as you did?
And I still travel a lot right now. I do a lot of workshops and conventions. We got something that I might be moving to Savannah, Georgia to go teach at Savannah College of Art and Design. So I've been asked to teach there, and I've always dreamed of just kind of teaching at a big, school that I really, admire and appreciate. I've been there a few times. They've brought me out as a guest speaker because what I realize my purpose in life is to teach, that's where I feel my real gift is in the teaching. I've been an artist, I've drawn, but I feel like I just want to make an impact in that. And I know I can. I know that's a strength I know I have, and drown out all the noise. I can still help you get to where you need to be as long as you're disciplined. And you're willing to put in the work and the time, you can get there. And that's where my focus is. And I realized, and I just want to mention this real quick because it was real profound when we were making this decision. I was going, I just kind of want a sign, from God in any way, anything, and just listening to that. And there I'm walking to go get some ice cream with my wife and her friend. And we walk in, and there's an old man sitting outside this ice cream shop, and he hands me this card. And I didn't look at it for a second, but I opened it up. On the front cover, it said, "If you were God, what would you do with you?" And all of a sudden it went, whoa. And then I walked out, and the guy was gone. This old man was gone. Where is this guy? I was looking for this sign. This guy, if you were God, what would and I knew the answer straight away. And that was just to help get me in front of as many people as possible to make a greater impact in their lives.
Fantastic.
And that was what my mission, really is. And that's why this opportunity, I'm like, I'm ready for it. Yeah.
Wow, what a gift.
Yeah.
We need that question.
Yeah.
We don't need the answer yet.
Right.
I mean, we can grapple with the answer, and it might change. Somebody's 24, they don't know.
Right.
You're at a point where you're ready to say, I know the answer.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to just go to one quick thing before the poem that I want you to share. I invite you to share, which is you struggled in school.
Yes.
And did you at that point think, what were your thoughts about your future when you were struggling throughout your schooling?
I didn't know, especially in England, this was where my parents were so concerned because I have my twin brother and I, they ranked you in England as 1 to 40 of kids in this class. Every time you got your report card, and my twin brother and I were always number 39 and 40. So it was always, you guys are the dumbest kids, and it's, what number are you? Oh, you get all the silver twins again, And so I never knew really. I just knew that I wanted to draw, but I didn't know what that looked like. And then when I came to America, again, just suffered tremendously in the fact that now I have everyone in my family, crazy enough, almost has ADHD, and they've taken medicine for it. And I've always never wanted to take anything for it. And I know I have it. I have a hard time staying focused and concentrating. But I always think that was kind of like a superpower in some way for me. And I didn't know academically. My parents were very concerned. What are you going to be? Maybe you should be an architect. Maybe you should do something. There was nothing. And that's what led me to dropping out of school when I graduated high school and dropped out when my first year of college, because I had no idea. And thank God I got into drawing caricature because it saved me. It really saved me. And that's what pushed me into this field. because I couldn't. I cheated off my twin brother all through high school. That's the only way I got through high school, was cheating off of it. Again, it was horrible. And I was drawing on all my homework and drawing on everything. So it was just meant to be. I didn't know what it looked like yet, but I did know that and I told my parents I'm dropping out of school, because in the art world, they don't care what your degree is, if you have a degree or what that looks like. It's more about how well can you draw. Yeah. So I just knew I had to get myself to that point where my artwork was to that level where people are going to notice and be able to hire me. So I just believed in that, and it worked out. Yeah.
Amazing. Your poem.
Yeah. So I wrote this poem. I wrote this book. It was called Conquering the Artist's Struggle, just from all my travels and all the things that I've done and that awareness. But this poem is called As Long As You Are You. And it goes like this. All I have ever done is enjoyed what I ever do. My mind was open. My mind was clear. I did not stop to think of fear. I open up my mind, think of an idea, put it into action, and see what will appear. It can never be a failure, because I learned along the way. If I did not succeed, I'll try another day. Stay calm and smile. Enjoy the things you do. Life will get much better as long as you are you.
So good.
Thank
so
you.
Good. Really, really profound, simple, clear, and good, and applicable to all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Honestly, I could do 2 hours very easily with you. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you
so much.
And
so interesting. And I learned a lot, not only about you and the way you think, which I had some inkling of, but also about a profession that really fascinates me. Yeah. And your artwork is so beautiful.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
This season is produced and edited by Jonah Lee Paz. Content editing by Bronwyn Lee Paz. Musical theme by Amots Plesner. Logo art by Janice Rodnunski. Graphic design by Gustav Lee Paz. Social media management by Morgan Shanahan and Sophie Bergeron. The Meaning Mindset with Rabbi Ron is hosted by Rabbi Ron Lee Paz. Find us wherever you find your podcasts.